Welcome. It's another beautiful evening in Pueblo, Colorado. I'm calling to order the regular city council meeting. Today is Monday, January 27th, 2025. We're going to have the invocation now. I'm going to call up Pastor Josh Richardson of the Pueblo Christian Center to lead us in a prayer. If you'd like to stand, stand. If not, don't. And then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance immediately following.
Thank you, City Council. It's an honor to be here. Lord, tonight we thank you. We begin this meeting with a big thank you for Pueblo. We love this city. We love the people of this city. And Lord, we ask your special hand over our city. Lord, we pray your grace and presence over Pueblo and your grace and strength over those who serve our city. Lord, I think of the first responders, the firemen and women. I think of our police officers who serve on the streets day and night. Lord, I pray for our emergency medical personnel, Lord, who run to the rescue when there's an accident or there's a medical emergency. I pray your grace and strength over all those who serve in our city and our communities. And Lord, I pray your wisdom and strength over our city council. Lord, guide them and give them the strength and the wisdom, a special wisdom, a supernatural wisdom that comes from God. Lord, it comes from you. I pray that over our mayor, Heather Graham. Will you guard her, protect her, strengthen her, and be with her, Lord, and lead and direct us that we would be a city that honors you, that loves you, with a bright future. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Richardson. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mark Califf,
Here.
Brett Boston,
Here.
Dennis Flores,
Here.
Roger Gomez,
Here.
Joe Latino,
Here.
Regina Maestri,
Here.
Sarah Martinez,
Here.
All here and accounted for. We now move into special recognitions. We have a proclamation presentation tonight for the Pueblo Mentoring Celebration Day, January 30th, 2025. And I'd like to call up Jesse Sena of the Pueblo Mentoring Collaborative. My good friend, Jesse Sena. Come on up. So this is a proclamation for Pueblo Mentoring Celebration Day, January 30th, 2025. Whereas recognizing the need for quality mentoring and the need for a collaboration of mentoring programs serving the greater city of Pueblo, the Pueblo Mentoring Collaborative was officially organized in 2013. The collaborative was formed to bring together the variety of mentoring programs offered in Pueblo and develop a collaborative and resourceful effort in mentoring. The PMC was organized to help address and facilitate the great need for expanded quality mentoring programs for children and adolescents in Pueblo, Colorado. And whereas the collaborative is made up of local community service agencies, which include Pueblo United Way, YMCA, Health Solutions, State of Grace Counseling, Hard Knocks Gang Prevention, Southern Colorado Youth Development, Crossroads Turning Points, First Presbyterian Church, Pueblo Has Talent, Divine Connections, Boys and Girls Club of Pueblo, Pueblo Community College, Colorado State University Pueblo, Halfway Home, and many other service agencies. Whereas the Pueblo Mentoring Collaborative is funded through House Bill 1451 and overseen by the Pueblo Interagency Oversight Group, PMC is also affiliated with Mentor Colorado, which is a statewide partnership committed to improving the quality of mentoring in Colorado and provides resources for mentoring, growth, and development. And whereas the Pueblo Mentoring Collaborative, as a collaboration of local human service providers, works toward empowering Pueblo's young toward their education, career planning, and employment success through the dedicated involvement of local businessmen and women, educators, the Pueblo labor force, community leaders, and other community-minded and interested individuals. And whereas the Pueblo Mentoring Collaborative is proud to host Mentoring, a celebration of building impactful relationships. The presentation and dinner event will be held as part of National Mentoring Month on Thursday, January 30th, 2025 at Rawlings Library. The event will feature the impact of mentoring, entertainment, a complete dinner, information, and an opportunity for networking and recruitment. The celebration will begin at 5:30 p.m. and conclude at 7 p.m. The event is free to the public, and anyone associated with or interested in mentoring is encouraged to attend. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Pueblo, Colorado, and the City Council of the City of Pueblo, Colorado, by the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim January 30th, 2025 as Pueblo Mentoring Celebration Day in the city and county of Pueblo, and urge the citizens of this community to join us in expressing our appreciation to all the dedicated individuals, groups, and organizations that provide quality mentoring programs and services to Pueblo's children and adolescents. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of the city and county of Pueblo, Colorado, to be affixed this 27th day of January, 2025. Signed, Mark Aliff, President of City Council, and Zach Swearingen, Board of the County Commissioners. Congratulations.
First off, I want to recognize our city council and our mayor. Thank you for your work, your dedication to our community and helping make Pueblo a greater city than what it is. And these are good days for our city. So thank you. Secondly, I want to invite anyone who would like to come. This is I believe the 9th year that we hold the Mentoring Celebration Dinner. And there's about 300 people that come out, and it's a wonderful meal by Coletti's, free dinner, and you get to hear a great speaker and support the program. And I just want to lastly, I want to take the opportunity to thank all the mentoring programs that are involved with the collaborative. Pueblo has a bright future. There are a lot of great things happening in our community. There are dedicated servants who are willing to serve and reach into the lives of young people. So thank you.
Thank you. We now move into public forum. We'll start off with Mr. Ted Freeman. Hello, Mr. Freeman. Thank you for coming.
Evening, City Council. My presentation tonight is PEDCO is not doing us any good. Why is Pueblo not a thriving, growing city? Yes, there was a time when PEDCO was needed and the people voted to tax themselves to raise funds to be used to recruit private companies to create primary jobs. And PEDCO, a nonprofit, was given the responsibility to find those companies. The need came about because the largest employer in Pueblo, the CF&I steel mill, terminated approximately half their workforce of 2,000 employees, causing a 20% unemployment rate situation to exist. Initially, PEDCO was somewhat successful by using a combination of offering the availability of shell buildings and cash, along with a commitment that a negotiated number of workers would be employed by each company. The unemployment rate decreased to 4 to 5% range, making Pueblo services not as important. Last year, the city paid PEDCO $350,000 and the county paid them $50,000, with PEDCO getting a free ride of offering no new projects. I have been informed that the city possibly might pay them the same amount this year. A diversity of good paying jobs are essential to thriving, prosperous, growing municipality. PEDCO, hopefully, by properly vetting potential prospects, should be able to determine that a prospect would be successful over a long period of time. But this has not occurred. Over the years, PEDCO has involved in dozens of deals that have gone by way of the trash can. Some of the losers are call centers, 5 or 6 of those, Dwell, Key Structures, Russ Davis Wholesale, Rookhold Concrete Tiles, Adams Aircraft, Vestas, PBR, Active of Armor, and the list goes on. The city and the county entered into an economic development contract as of January 1st, 2008. This contract was entered during a difficult economic times that existed in this country. Some of the mutual covenants agreed to, the term was from January 1st, 2008 to December 31st, 2008, and will automatically renew for successfully 1-year terms thereafter. The contract may be terminated with or without cause and without liability or penalty. Funding. Otherwise, full compensation for services performed. Well, PEDCO didn't perform any services last year, but they still got paid. PEDCO's budget report. This covenant has not been really complied with for a number of years. Otherwise, if you read the contract, I hope everybody has a copy of the contract. If you read the contract, that they have really not met those terms and conditions, and yet they still got paid. One of the city's half-cent sales tax monies, and this is part of the contract, that also half-cent sales tax money is available to PEDCO for some of their projects. Now, I indicated that I recommend that the economic development contract, which I hope you have a copy of, between the city and PEDCO, be terminated by the city of Pueblo, thereby removing the restrictions of the use of the 1/2 cent sales and use tax fund and the requirement to fund PEDCO's operations. So that's what I have, and I hope you will look over the contract that is existent. I feel that it's not a contract that any organization, government organization, should be involved with, because it has no sunset. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
And you have a good evening now. Bye.
We now move to Patrick Hurley. Hello, Mr. Hurley. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for this time. I am Patrick Hurley and part of Faith Leaders in Action. and also part of the Community Commission on Housing and Homelessness. And I'm hoping to ask a question that you might answer. And that is, do you want us to pause our work or to continue our work? We have been told that there is a 90-day pause. I think we have some significant suggestions, have done some significant work in visiting other cities, bigger cities, Colorado Springs and Denver, and seeing some of their response and help to get people in transition housing and on to jobs and to more permanent housing. So do you want us to continue our work? Do you intend that we stop working for 90 days? Have you seen and are you aware that there's been work on a new bylaws so that there are fewer people? Because since I've been on it, which is not long, a year and a half, we've never had a quorum. Therefore, we could not take any action. So what is your hope or anxiety about the Community Commission on Housing and Homelessness?
Mr. Hurley, on public comment, we can't go back and forth, but I imagine that somebody will respond to you as we move through council member commentary.
Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Elvis Martinez. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
I would want to start by saying thank you to those who replied to my emails and or answer a phone call and had a lengthy conversation on many different topics. And you guys know who you are. And I would like to respectfully and nicely ask the mayor to at least hold a town hall in the next 90 days or so, or 60 days on the proposed grocery tax, so the public could speak to you at whatever event that's chosen. That would be nice. And I would volunteer myself to be the moderator of that, if you choose to do so. And I would also like to encourage those, if this does go to the ballot, of course, it's up to you guys. And if it somehow passes, which again, on the record, I'm totally against how it's proposed, 1,000%. I would like to encourage those that have transportation to go out to Legree's and shop there, or go out to Pueblo West and shop at the Walmart or the Safeway to get their groceries. And then one possible and crazy idea I thought of, which I already talked to the director of Parks and Rec, Stephen Meyer, is to possibly have a study or so, and he would know more on this, he's the expert, of the parks that we have that aren't going, that parents aren't taking their kids or grandkids to, so we could sell off those parks and everything and have properties built there or have a business built there so we could bring in tax revenue. Because yes, the parks are free. Yes, we own the parks, but those that aren't being attended to as much, we're losing out on money right there, because it takes a lot of money to upkeep these, and the people working in the Parks and Recs are always doing a wonderful job keeping them nice and neat. Well, as nice and neat as they can. Moving on to the potential purchase of the pallet shelters is a good idea. And I did talk about this with the previous council that was on here a couple of years ago. And I'm 100% for it. But the thing is, the news said that there wouldn't be any background checks for these people. I certainly wouldn't want any child molesters in there, or anybody who's committed domestic violence, has been convicted, or any robbery, or people who attack the elderly or whatever, because those would be vulnerable people in those pallet shelters. Just because they're unhoused or whatever, I think everybody should have the background check, and also to check if any of them are here from another country. I'll keep it at that, because all of you guys had to go through a background check to be on city council. So I think the people who are in the pallet shelters, hopefully it gets passed, I think that they should have a background check also. That's only fair. Checks and balances. And then I would also ask politely if Mr. Gomez would invite Safe Side for a work session here in the future and everything, so we could get to know them better. And I agree with Mr. Freeman about Petco, and I never voted for that Petco tax, never will. And I know it was proposed to you guys via email last week that the mayor wants to continue it, which I'm 1,000% against. And then another thing is these blighted properties. I wish we could tax these suckers so much that these people could actually get their properties up to code and everything, because in District 1, it's very blighted and everything on the west side, and there's proof. You guys just have to drive on the west side. And then I have a minute left. And then a couple things that I emailed you guys on so the public knows, and these are just ideas. I'm not saying I'm for or against all of these, is a ride share or taxi tax because they're using the roads. DoorDash or Grubhub, if you order from them, say a quarter a mile or so, not much. An increase on tobacco sales, I'm 1,000% for that one. An entertainment tax, such as if you buy a ticket for the movies or a concert, et cetera, like that, because that's disposable income that you guys have. And I already talked about the blight tax. And then an amendment to the mayor's grocery tax, just tax junk food, cookies, cakes, et cetera, like that. And I hope that we're all in agreement that we all want the Eagles to win the Super Bowl in 13 days and not the Kansas City Chiefs. I hope we could all agree on that. And I like that shirt, Mr. Boston. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie Fetty. Hello, Mr. Fetty. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have some questions. Does Pedco own the steel mill?
Once again, Mr. Fetty, in a public forum, we can't answer questions. We don't answer questions, but maybe after you give your commentary, maybe when the counselors go through their commentary, they'll be able to answer with
Okay,
what's going on.
well, will use my time to demonstrate that I'm not getting answers. I have the second question. I'll go ahead and jump into that if there's no further discussion. Is Pedco acting on behalf of any other nation or corporation or institution or city or state besides the city of Pueblo, Colorado? Let the record show. Nobody has an answer. So the record shows. Third question. Is Pedco trying to steal the steel mill from the Russians and start World War III? Let the record show. My city council cannot tell me any of these things, and Pedco couldn't either. So what's going on? I guess we'll sit in silence and consider it. I convict you, Homo heroes. I convict you. I challenge you. Two and a half minutes to go.
Mr. Petty, we're not going to just sit here in silence. If you have other things to say.
I have this
please
amount of
move.
time, do I not?
You have
My
that amount of
statement,
time
this is-
to
Then my
make
statement will be in
comments.
silence and it will demonstrate what's going on here.
You have 2 minutes and 4 seconds to give us your commentary. Otherwise, we'll move on to the
All right.
next.
Okay. Why won't you talk to me about this? Why won't you answer my emails? Why won't you act like I exist? I got 1 minute and 40 seconds. You will give me my time. If you won't act like I exist, then you will give me my time that I legally have. I exist, whether you like it or not. Everybody?
Are you done now?
I have 1 minute left.
No, you don't. If you
Yes, I
have
do.
commentary, please give us your
Is this the home of
commentary.
heroes or not?
This is the home of heroes. You're absolutely
Wow,
right.
thank you for that answer. Now where's the other answers?
As I stated before, in public forum, we will not answer questions. If somebody wants to
You have not
address
answered
it,
my emails. You have not answered me when I've given you hand delivered letters to you. You act like I do not exist. So I'm not going to exist for 30 more seconds, whether
Okay.
you like it or not.
I appreciate that.
I'm a veteran. I have as much right to be in here as anybody else, and I have a right to be heard. Thank you for giving my time.
Thank you for coming. We now move to Jimmy Duffner. Hello, Mr. Duffner. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. So like Patrick was telling you, the Faith Leaders in Action and the Community Commission on Housing and Homelessness work very closely together to accomplish our goals to facilitate the homeless. We have a lot of work to do. We have the housing forum that's coming up in February that needs to be addressed. We have a contract we're trying to get done with Pueblo Community College to have another housing or a year in homelessness done over there. We have the CSUP conference that we're getting ready to start again here this semester. And we have the designated camping and parking sites proposal, which hasn't been replied to. And we would love to help the mayor with the pallet shelters. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming. Now we move to Sally Sharp. Hello, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. My name is Sally Sharp. When I first moved to Pueblo, I was so excited to join the Sierra Club Ready for 100 campaign at the February 13th, 2017 City Council meeting. It was one of my very first public engagement actions here in Pueblo. There were about 100 people ready to celebrate Pueblo's commitment to 100% renewable energy by 2035. And I learned that the campaign had engaged 500 people. It was a 14-month campaign, and they had a paid staff organizer. So it was a big deal for this city. And it was a point of pride and a point of just joy that we were all together. We all cheered at the council's unanimous decision that evening. We were on the map. as you can see, I still have the shirt. Which I wore proudly up until about 6 weeks ago. Now I'm a bit not wanting to wear it anymore, actually. I'm dismayed by the council's decision to reverse ordinance 13613. I would have showed up earlier and actually signed up to speak a couple of weeks ago, but I couldn't find any explanation of the proposal in the public agenda in the public agenda for the 2 council sessions that it was on the agenda. So Mr. Latino and Mr. Flores may remember me as one of the lead organizers for the Bring Power Home 2020 campaign. Energy is key to everything. So I have just a few bullet points I have to share with you. The 2017 ordinance showed that Pueblo is a community that's motivated and forward-looking. Headlines nationwide were incredibly positive in 2017. We made Time magazine, and I think it was on the cover. This voluntary ordinance put us on the map, and this brought us millions of dollars and has been a valuable tool in applying for grants. You've got an energy performance contract right now. Let's listen carefully to the numbers. There's no political agenda here, just smart decisions. Black Hills Energy is a huge issue. Their high rates are decimating our community. Investing in renewable energy is our only buffer against Black Hills Energy excessive rates. We need to invest in renewable energy to stave off the power of these future rate increases. We need to look at the cost for the fire stations and EVs in terms of the long-term life cycle for financial stability. This will save money, Pueblo money in the long run. Potential businesses that are looking to relocate, take one look at the price of electricity and go somewhere else. We can be a hub for renewable energy. In fact, we were moving in that direction. We have several accomplishments. Everett Steel Mill is now 90% powered by solar. And just the other day, the United States Department of Transportation awarded the city of Pueblo $11.5 million to install 260 electric vehicle chargers in low and middle income areas. And then my last point is I urge you to reconsider your vote to rescind ordinance 13613. You've already voted twice. You can vote again. I believe it was Mr. Gomez who claimed he made a mistake. Why not redo the vote yet one more time? Thank you so much.
Thank you. We now move to council member and mayor commentary. Mayor Graham.
I don't have anything, President Aliff.
Councilor Latino.
Thank you. Sally, thank you. And you're right on, Sally, with everything that you said. And we're working as a community to do the kinds of things that need to be done here. And in terms of Black Hills Energy, I'm going to be very candid. I want them gone. I want them gone. And I've received a letter as it relates to the tone of that I have taken. And this came from the CEO of Black Hills Energy. We don't want anybody hurt. We just want them gone. They've milked this city long enough. So I'm going to vote to get rid of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Boston.
Thank you. When it comes to the Commission on Housing and Homelessness, I believe that's going to be one of the things we're going to discuss during the retreat, if I'm not mistaken, about kind of what we're going to be discussing the committee during the retreat next month. I think that's going to be something we're going to focus on, what we want the repurposing or, you know, how we're going to reshape that commission. In the meantime, I wouldn't say, you know, necessarily stop doing work. Maybe you can't officially do anything, but sounds like prior you couldn't have a quorum to officially do anything anyway. So I would say continue working, continue gathering ideas on how to move forward. And hopefully soon we can give you more concrete ways to do that. after our retreat. And when it comes to the 100% renewable goal, like I've said many times before, if we weren't doing 100% renewable in everything we did, the goal didn't make sense. So I believe we're going to work on a new goal that's something similar, worded slightly different, that is more achievable by the city. I understand some people are disappointed, but that doesn't mean that the EAC is dissolved. We just renamed the commission. They're going to have a slightly different goal, and we are still working to do good things in the community when it comes to being clean and renewable in some respect, just not 100%. So don't feel like the work you've done is completely lost. We still will be focusing on some of those goals, just in a different way.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gomez?
Yeah, I just want to comment that I'm really concerned about all the vitriolic stuff that goes on in this chamber and just the basic lack of respect that we seem to be losing for each other. I don't get it. I don't think there's anybody in this diet attacking anybody out in the audience. I hope that's not, and a lot of people here don't do that as well. But when we have displays like we just saw, that borders on getting dangerous. And I'm telling you, I've been around long enough to know that. If we can't treat each other with respect, I would recommend that you don't come in the chambers. Get on Zoom and do it that way. But what we're doing right now, it's really outside the boundaries of respect for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Maestri?
I just wanted to, reinforce, seems like the comment sections from the live video and the social media comments and so forth, there's a lot of things that are said with misinformation that really never get corrected. And then they take the topics and the things that we're trying to do here in the city and they misdirect the public. A lot of times it comes from the public, so they misdirect themselves and then their fellow citizen. I think maybe during our council retreat, we should maybe see if there are some solutions that we could look at, because the spread of misinformation is running way out of control. And the decorum here in the chambers is getting out of control. There's just questions that we can't answer. It's not because we're not transparent. It's because sometimes the questions aren't making any sense. And how do you deal with something that doesn't, or respond to something that doesn't make sense, or get caught up in that conversation that's going to go nowhere because someone has a theory that doesn't make any sense. The citizens have the opportunity to vote on any of the on all of the tax increases, any of the tax increases. They have the opportunity to vote. They seem to be thinking that council is, voting for those taxes, and we're not voting for the taxes. What we're doing is we're allowing the community to exercise their rights and vote on whatever they feel they want to vote for, or what they don't want to vote for or against. And so hopefully, because I get a lot of stressed out people calling about the taxes, and they don't even realize that they're the ones that have the opportunity to vote on it. The only thing council is allowing things to go on the ballot so that they can have their choice. Everybody is upset with Black Hills Energy. Nobody's for rate increases. One of the things that I've gone through the past videos and listened to the meetings that we've been discussing, one of the things that I've been learning and educating myself further on, because it hasn't been discussed, is in the off-ramping, if we choose to off-ramp, and we choose to off-ramp, if that's what we choose to do in a vote, we lose the franchise fee, which is revenue to this city of about $4 million. So we got to be really sure that we are going to be able to municipalize, okay? Which the experts are going to tell us in the study that's coming forward. Because if not, and ultimately, the PUC has the say. So we could vote to off-ramp and municipalize, but the PUC could tell us no. So what have we done? We've given up $4 million when right now we're in search for revenue. We're in search for money so that we can further better Pueblo. And we've looked at a couple of examples that are about $13 million each generating. And we have a deficit that we got to cover first out of that first 13 million. But to give up 4 million, there's a long thought process to this. It's a very methodical process. It's not just like, we can't just be in a temper of, I hate Black Hills Energy and I hate the rates. And we need to make this decision based off of emotion. So I just say that, give it time, hear it out. The other thing too, we talk about, there's, people that come up here and they talk about wasting taxpayer monies and so forth. I mean, we've just got some core requests that are going on, which is the right of the public to know, but make sure that your core requests are targeting something that's necessary, that you're going to be able to accomplish something rather than collect a bunch of papers. Because see, in a core request, the attorneys get involved. And in the private sector, attorneys are minimum $350 an hour. So for every little core request that you have that's consuming hours and hours of our time could be, over $1,000. And it'd be great if they amounted to something and that you were accomplishing something with your core request. But right now, they're just a deficit to our books, to our already added deficit. So that's just, even though it's your right, just make sure that every right all people can abuse their rights. And so make sure you're just not abusing yours when you're doing that, because it's been very costly and very time consuming to our city offices. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Flores.
Yes, before I talk about what I want to talk about tonight, I wanted to respond to a couple of questions the previous person had asked about Avra Steel. Number one, I serve on the Petco board as a representative from City Council, along with the mayor and President Aliff. And no, Petco does not own Avra Steel, and no, Petco does not have the ability to buy Avra Steel. They just don't have $1 billion laying around where that could happen. So I just wanted to say that because the question made no sense to me. Anyway, I want to talk about immigration tonight because I got to tell you, I am very, very frustrated, almost to the point that I feel helpless of what's going on in the United States and here in Pueblo. I've been getting calls from several people out in the county that children are not attending school, that their parents are not going to work. Even the ones that have work visas are afraid that the law is going to be coming after them. It's a unusual situation that's occurring. And I'm very, very frustrated about it because I think it's more, this all started out that the administration was going to go after felons. And now we find out that that's not true. They're picking up, people without probable cause. In fact, I'm hoping that I could give 1 minute of my time to allow our legal counsel to at least explain what our police department should be doing and not doing. But there are five huge sectors of business in the United States There's ag and ranch and farms. There's the construction industry, the tourism, the food companies, and nursing and other kinds of facilities that help people that are disabled, et cetera. These are the jobs that these people are doing. I mean, if this administration is successful in getting all of these sectors to get rid of the immigrants that are willing to do this, you talk about inflation in a community where our food is going to be costing us a lot more if this really comes to fruition. To me, it's more of an economic issue. You know, migrants do not take jobs that other Americans can do it. I mean, it's been, you know, proven that that's not the case. I live over on the south side of town, and they're building a house behind me. And I swear to God, I don't know how these, that you could tell they were, whether they're legal or illegal, I don't know. But with 20 and 30-degree temperatures, they were out doing this job. And I think people in Pueblo, they don't look up. Go around Pueblo and see who's putting the roofs on our houses, who's doing the concrete, who's doing the stucco, who's doing the framing. Look up and look at it, or go out to the farms. I can't imagine even my own children, you know, trying to pick a crop out there in the heat in the summer. The other thing that I'm concerned about is this insatiable appetite that business has for cheap labor, and this is what it really is. There are a lot of contractors, a lot of farmers. Why are they looking the other way? Why aren't they trying to get comprehensive immigration reform to do this right? But for them, at the end of the day, you know, who's suffering? Okay, there's a lot of children. The dreamers are suffering. No end in sight for these young people that have never been in another country. But again, I'm very, very concerned about that. I'm going to be watching this very closely. For those that don't know, this town, by the year, well, right now, 60% of all the children under the age of 18 are Hispanic. And for many of us here in Pueblo, we've been in the United States since the 16th century. When I was told when I was younger to go back to where I came from, I thought, well, maybe I should consider going back to Santa Fe. I love that city. So, but this is the kind of issue that when you look at it on its surface, there's going to be, it's almost like a war on brown people and black people and LGBTQ. And it's very, very disturbing to me. And, you know, I have friends that I believe will be looking at this very closely, because this is certainly what the election was about. I'm not sure that people were prepared to see our country be put in a situation where, and let me tell you the one thing that just drove me over, and I'll stop there. And that is that when Biden got into office 4 years ago, he put a committee or a department in which he was trying to, there's still 1,000 children that have not been joined back with their parents. He put this committee and was successful in reuniting children with their parents. And the work was not done. There were still about 1,000 people that still had not been, 1,000 children had not been reunited. So what does this administration do? They dissolve that committee. It sounds like our committees that we're dissolving, but so to me, that is cruelty. Cruelty, not wanting to put people together with their children. Why would you do that? And there's only one word, out of cruelty. And I'm really disgusted by that. And I was hoping that our deputy city attorney could address the issue about people that, how we cooperate with ICE or the DEA, and whether or not these people are entitled to probable cause. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Counselor Flores. Counselor Martinez. I think in a council commentary that this, if you want to bring up on
defer.
policy and things like that, that needs to go to a work session or some other forum, but in public commentary or in council commentary, I don't think we bring
I've
up.
asked him for an opinion and I'm satisfied with you just sending me an email. And I'll
Okay.
make that part of my commentary the next time.
Perfect. Counselor Martinez?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. So to answer Mr. Patrick and Mr. Jimmy's questions, as soon as the vote happened, I actually asked for a meeting between staff, President Aliff and myself, including the facilitator of the Commission on Housing and Homelessness to talk internally about, how we move forward, what does that look like? And then I just found out that I think we're actually going to be talking about it at the retreat, which is scheduled for February. So those are kind of next steps on the commission side. I'm really excited to hear that FLIA has identified homelessness and housing as their priority for the year. So I certainly encourage a lot of work to happen through FLIA in the meantime. Similarly, last week, my phone was blowing up with reports of ICE being in the community and people panicking, asking questions like, what does this mean? What are next steps? What are you guys doing about it? And there were several reports around the community. A lot were rumors, some were confirmed, but they all caused mass chaos and panic. And let me be clear, there's a difference between taking criminals who are part of the cartel and drug lords and murderers, and those that came here for a better life and who are good citizens, those people who work for us and with us and take their kids to school with us. And it helps make our community a melting pot of cultures. I'm a product of immigration, as a lot of us are. And so in my education in the last week, because it's been a whirlwind, I found out that the state of Colorado actually has a lot of different laws already on the books that protect immigrants. One, local law enforcement cannot enter into contracts with federal agencies like ICE or private entities that operate detention centers to detain people for civil service violations. Two, local law enforcement can't arrest or detain someone based on solely their immigration status. Three, it's also illegal to impersonate an officer. So let that be a stark warning for those who are out there pretending to be ICE that it's illegal. Just what you're doing is causing mass panic. So that's illegal. The state also has a 24/7 hotline for anyone witnessing or experiencing ICE activity. It's available in both English and Spanish at 1-844-846-8341. It's managed by the Colorado Rapid Response Network, which will help keep our community safe by preventing unnecessary panic by only confirming and sharing verified reports so that people feel safe going to get groceries and taking their kids to work. Y para la comunidad que vive con miedo, los oigo. Estoy a su lado y luchar por ustedes. Quiero que sepan que ustedes son miembros muy importantes de esta comunidad. Me puede mucho por lo que están pasando en estos momentos. Estén vigilantes y sean valientes. Gracias.
Thank you, Counselor. I do want to go on the record that I do not believe PEDCO is trying to start World War III. And I just want to go on the record for that and answer that question. Although I did not get to answer it in public commentary, I'll answer it now. As far as the immigration thing, I think you guys bring up some great points. I think Counselor Maestri hit it right on the head when in her commentary, when she said there's a whole heck of a lot of misinformation that's traveling around the community, and understandably, I mean, you can understand how some people may be very nervous about what's going on in the country. I thought that the sheriff of Pueblo County made it very clear what his position was They're not going into schools. He's not helping unless they're in pursuit of a criminal. So local law enforcement isn't raiding farms. They're not raiding businesses. They're not going through schools or anything else of such in Pueblo that I have heard of. If you hear different, let us know. But as far as I know, that's not happened. And on any major topic like this, there's always two sides to the story, and there's always a difference of opinion on what immigration means. I'm an immigrant. You know, I come from immigrants. I think that everybody on this dais and everybody out here are immigrants. But the difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration are real. And I still think that this is a country full of opportunity and a place where anybody should or people should have the chance to come and live out the American dream. But I believe they should come here legally through a vetted system. That's all I say. But I'm not the expert. I'm just some guy sitting up here running his mouth on something that I don't know a whole heck of a lot about, and I'm not going to go any further on that. That being said, let's move into the review and approval of the agenda. Page 1, page 2, page 3.
President Aliff, I'd like to move N5 to the regular agenda. I have some questions.
Perfect. Madam Clerk, did you get that? Page 4. And is there a motion on the agenda?
President Aliff, I make a motion to amend the agenda, moving item N5 to the regular session and approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second? Councilor Gomez with a second. Any questions? Let's call for the vote. Did everybody vote? Sarah? Passes 7-0. We now move to reading and approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
I motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes of the regular meeting dated January 13, 2025 as distributed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Flores, any questions? Let's call for the vote. It passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, we now move into public hearings, item J1.
Item J1, petition for annexation area commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing number 1, annexation described as 79.8 acres of land located north of State Highway 78, southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, and east of the south side landfill. This public hearing is held for the purpose of determining and finding whether or not the area proposed for annexation meets the applicable requirements for the Colorado State Revised Statutes, section 31-12-104 and 105. Reference agenda items M7 resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Hobson, we have a staff report.
Yes, President Aliff, council members, and Mayor Graham. The procedures we're going to follow this evening are, I'm going to give a brief staff report. Then the city attorney will swear me in, and there'll be a series of questions that will be asked that I will respond to. And then the public hearing will be opened up for public comment. This hearing, this evening is to receive public comment on certain findings and determinations that the area commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 1 annexation meets the applicable standards, the applicable requirements of Colorado Revised Statute 31-12, 104, and 105. On October 28th, 2024, City Council approved resolution number 15803, preliminarily determining that the petition for annexation of the area commonly known as Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 1 is valid under the provisions of Colorado Revised Statutes, sections 31-12, 1071. Pueblo Recreation Resort Filing Number 1 annexation is located north of State Highway 78, southwest of Ventana Subdivision Filing Number 1, and east of the Southside Landfill. The petitioners are requesting to annex 79.8 acres into the city for a potential mixture of land uses. That concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. Ms. Sykes, are you going to swear Mr. Hobson in?
I'll swear him in. You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give before the Pueblo City Council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
For the record, I'm Scott Hobson, Acting Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of Pueblo.
And Mr. Hobson, did you receive a petition for annexation for this filing?
Yes,
And do the owners of the property who have signed the annexation petition comprise at least 50% of the landowners in the area and owning more than 50% of the area, which precludes a requirement for an annexation election under CRS 31-12-107?
yes, the property owners comprise more than 50% of the ownership. Actually, they comprise 100%.
Have the owners of the property who have signed the annexation petition consented to the annexation of the property into the city of Pueblo?
Yes,
And is not less than 1/6 of the perimeter of the area proposed to be annexed contiguous with the existing boundaries of the city of Pueblo?
yes,
And has an annexation plat of the proposed Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 1 annexation been prepared by a licensed surveyor within the state of Colorado, verifying that the property complies with section 31-12-104 of the Colorado Municipal Annexation Act of 1965 as amended?
yes, and I have as an exhibit to the hearing, Exhibit A, which is a copy of the signed plan.
And let the record reflect that we've handed that to the clerk for the record. Does a community of interest exist between the area proposed to be annexed and the city of Pueblo? And does that said area, and is that said area urban, or will it be urbanized in the near future and be integrated with or be capable of being integrated with the city of Pueblo?
Yes,
And has an annexation petition or petition for annexation election pursuant to CRS 31-12-107 been initiated within another municipality involving all or a portion of this property?
no, there is no adjacent municipalities that would be part of this annexation.
Will the annexation of this property result in the detachment of the area from any school district and the attachment of the same to another school district?
No,
Does any portion of the property proposed to be annexed extend the municipal boundary of the city of Pueblo more than 3 miles?
no.
So that concludes the testimony of this witness at this time on annexation filing number 1.
Thank you, Ms. Sykes. Thank you, Mr. Hobson. We're going to open up for public testimony. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor or against this annexation? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Madam Clerk, J2.
Item J2, petition for annexation area commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 2, annexation described as 219.76 acres of land located southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1 and west of the Westmore subdivision of unincorporated Pueblo County. This public hearing is held for the purpose of determining and finding whether or not the area proposed for annexation meets the applicable requirements for the Colorado Revised Statutes, section 31-12-104 and 105. Reference agenda item M8 resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll open the hearing. Mr. Hobson, you have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. President. As the clerk said, this is a hearing to receive public comment on certain findings and determinations that the area commonly known as Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 2 annexation meets the applicable requirements Colorado Revised Statute 31-12-04 and 104 and 105. On October 28, 2024, City Council approved Resolution 15804, preliminarily determining that the petition for annexation of the area commonly known as Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 2 is valid under the provisions of Colorado Revised Statute Section 31-12-107-1. Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 2, annexation is located southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, west of Westmore subdivision in unincorporated Pueblo County. The petitioners are requesting to annex 219.76 acres into the city for a mixture of land uses. That concludes my report.
Mr. Hobson, I'll remind you, you're sworn.
And Mr. Hobson, since this is a new hearing on filing annexation 2, could you go ahead and state your name and your position with the city, please?
Scott Hobson, Acting Director of Planning and Community Development.
And did you receive a petition for annexation for this filing number 2?
Yes.
And do the owners of the property who have signed the annexation petition comprise at least 50% of the landowners in the area and owning more than 50% of the area, which would preclude the requirement for an annexation election under CRS 3112-107?
Yes.
And have the owners of the property who have signed the annexation petition consented to the annexation of the property into the city of Pueblo?
Yes.
Is not less than 1/6 of the perimeter of the area proposed to be annexed contiguous with the existing boundaries of the city of Pueblo?
Yes.
Has the annexation plat of the proposed Pueblo Recreation Resort filing number 2 annexation been prepared by a licensed surveyor within the state of Colorado, verifying that the property complies with section 3112-104 of the Colorado Municipal Annexation Act of 1965 as amended?
Yes, and I have an exhibit with the annexation plat for the record of this hearing.
And we'll have the record reflect that he's handing Exhibit A to the clerk for inclusion in the record. Mr. Hobson, does a community of interest exist between the area proposed to be annexed and the city of Pueblo? And is that said area urban or able to be urbanized in the near future? And that area integrated with or capable of being integrated with the city of Pueblo?
Yes.
Has an annexation petition or petition for annexation election pursuant to CRS 3112-107 been initiated within another municipality involving all or a portion of this property?
No.
Will the annexation of this property result in the detachment of area from any school district and the attachment of the same to another school district?
No.
Does any portion of the property proposed to be annexed extend the municipal boundary of the city of Pueblo more than 3 miles?
No.
All right, that concludes Mr. Hobson's testimony at this time on annexation number 2.
Thank you, Ms. Sykes. Thank you, Mr. Hobson. We'll now open it up for any public testimony. Is there anyone here? Come on down. They need to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give before the Pueblo City Council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name into the microphone for the record.
Thanks. My name's Heath Herber. I'm one of the investors, owners of Pueblo Recreation Investors. And I just wanted to introduce myself and my 2 partners, that one on the, yeah, they're there, one on the right, the left, and the other one on the right. That's Ian Stain and John Harlan. And the 3 of us represent 100% of the ownership of Pueblo Recreation Investors, and we look forward to being part of the city of Pueblo. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to give public testimony? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Madam Clerk, we now move to the consent agenda. L Communications, item L1.
Item L1, minutes of the Planning and Zoning regular meeting for 12/11/2024. M, resolutions. On M1, a resolution authorizing the transfer of $750,000 to project ED 0801, lease proceeds escrow RMS, previously established in the 1992-2026 Sales and Use Tax Capital Improvements Project Fund. Item M2, a resolution awarding an agreement for professional services in the amount of $289,234 to Pinion Environmental, Inc., a Colorado corporation, for project number 24-136, provide National Environmental Protection Act, NEPA, for West Side improvements, and authorizing the purchasing agent to execute same. Item M3, a resolution confirming the appointment of city council members to various boards and commissions for the year 2025. Item M4, a resolution confirming the reappointment by the mayor of Elizabeth Gallegos to serve a 5-year term expiring December 1, 2030 on the Pueblo Urban Renewal Authority. Item M5, a resolution from the city of Pueblo in support of Colorado SB 25004, regulating childcare fees, concerning regulating fees licensed child care centers may charge families. Item M6, a resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of Pueblo, Colorado Municipal Corporation, and Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., relating to bid number 24-115, consulting for EPA brownfield study for planning development and authorizing the purchasing agent to execute same. Item M7, a resolution approving and adopting findings and determinations concerning the proposed annexation of the area commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing number 1, annexation described as 79.8 acres of land located north of State Highway 78, southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, and east of the South Side landfill. Item M8, a resolution approving and adopting findings and determinations concerning the proposed annexation of the area commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing number 2, annexation described as 219.76 acres of land located southwest of the Ventana subdivision, filing number 1 on the west of the Westmore subdivision in unincorporated Pueblo County. And ordinances, first presentation, item N1, an ordinance approving and accepting a grant agreement for the City of Pueblo from the Colorado Department of Transportation, authorizing the mayor to execute same, establishing project number CI 2508 and budgeting and appropriating funds in the amount of $128,000 to project number CI 2508 to install trail signage. Item N2, an ordinance approving an agreement to buy and sell real estate between the City of Pueblo, Colorado Municipal Corporation, and Pueblo Urban Renewal Authority, public body corporate and politic of the state of Colorado, relating to the sale of property described as Lot 14, Block 46, East Pueblo, schedule number 431120007, 800 block of East 3rd Street, Pueblo, Colorado 81001, for any amount of $2,000 and authorizing the mayor to do same. Item M3, an ordinance authorizing amendment number 20 to the agreement for community services, planning, administration, and accountability services between the City of Pueblo, Colorado Municipal Corporation, and the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Pueblo. Item N4, an ordinance approving the memorandum of understanding between the Colorado Department of Health and Public Health and Environment, Air Pollution Control Division, and the Pueblo Fire Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute same. Item N6, an ordinance amending zoning restrictions to rezone 1 acre located at 615 South Pueblo Boulevard from R2 Single Family Residential Zone District to B3 Highway and Arterial Business Zone District. Item N7, an ordinance amending zoning restrictions to rezone 0.25 acres located at 2600 East 8th Street from B2 Sub-Regional Business Zone District to R4 Mixed Residential Zone District. Item N8, an ordinance amending zoning restrictions to rezone 0.15 acres located at 915 Nevada Avenue from R2 Single Family Residential Zone District to RCN Residential Charter Neighborhood Zone District.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there an approval of the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I move to receive and file the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission, approve all resolutions set forth in the consent agenda, pass the ordinances of the consent agenda, setting the public hearings for February 10th, 2025, and order the ordinances to be published by title.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Counselor Latino, any questions? Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, we now move to the regular agenda, item N5.
Item N5, an ordinance calling a special municipal election to be held on May 6, 2025, directing that the special municipal election be conducted as part of a coordinated election, adopting for use of the special municipal election the requirements and procedures of the Uniform Election Code of 1992, except to the extent that the Uniform Election Code of 1992 conflicts with a specific provision of the Charter of the City of Pueblo, and suspending for such purposes the Pueblo Election Code and all ordinances and resolutions of the city in conflict therewith.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Happy to provide the staff report for this, President Aliff, members of council, Mayor Graham. This is the ordinance that calls the special election that would potentially have the municipalization item on it. This would be a coordinated spring election with the county, meaning that it would be less expensive for the city because it would be coordinated. We would not have to have it to be a standalone election. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have regarding it.
Counselor Maestri, you had some questions?
I wanted a clarification. I knew that the municipal was going to be on there. Was there anything else that we were planning to put on there? The one thing I was concerned about the other day when I was speaking with you was that anything that we agreed to put on there needs to be done by March.
Yes, it would pretty much need to be on the next agenda for first reading.
Okay, so we're going to have to be voting on putting things on this election. We knew it was the I'm tired. You know what I mean?
Municipalization.
Yes, there. Thank you very much. And if there was anything else, because to make a decision by March 1st, we need information. And so that was it. That's all that's expected to go. And when is the study going to be done?
It should be done in time for us to decide what the ballot issue will ring. That's why we had to decide to go forward with it so quickly.
What was the date they gave us that it would be done?
End of January.
End of January?
Yeah, so once we get it back, we can have a work session with the city council and go over what it says.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure everybody's aware. Thank you. Oh,
Counselor Flores.
This sounds like a placeholder in the event that we have the municipalization question on in May, or we do something else. I don't think the tax issue would be, I think that has to be in a general election, as I understand. Is that right?
I don't
Grocery
believe
tax?
that it has to be. No, it could be at a special municipal election, but I believe that the desire of the administration
I
is to
think
have it
as
in
a
November.
Tabor, I think that if we do have a tax issue, it has to be in a general election, which would be in November. Am I wrong about that, Harley?
I believe you could call it as a special election. However, nothing has been prepared for any sort of tax question to be asked in spring or at any special election this year. So it'd be very difficult to try to do that in the spring.
So I'm assuming that we're expecting our consultant to tell us to add it on there. That's why we're doing this.
My understanding that the only item that they're looking to put on the spring election is the municipalization question, since that does need to be answered by July. I believe any other ballot item that's been discussed is aiming for the November 4th, 2025 election.
So so we're waiting for the consultant report. And if they tell us this is not a good idea, I guess we'd have to take that into consideration and putting it on the ballot. Is that right?
That would be up to council, yes.
That's why we're waiting for the consultant report to come back, which
Okay.
should be the end of January. And then we will present it to the city council and then the council will make the decision.
And the actual ballot issue, Harley, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, we have until April 11th to cancel any election that we were to enter into today or through an IGA or with the county. So there's a time limit to alert the county, but then there's also a large window for us to withdraw from the spring election if council chooses.
Thank you.
Counselor Martinez.
Do we know what the county's asking?
Oh, the county itself, I don't believe is doing it, but they are holding an election for Pueblo West and perhaps for the fire district.
Oh, okay.
So that's what will be coordinated with. I'm not aware if that the county does have any ballot items for spring.
And then, so really quickly for the timeline, it's end of January is the report that we get back. And then we decide by April. And then when is the election?
May 6th.
May 6th. Okay. So quickly.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
well, just one more thing. We don't decide by April. We have to have it,
So
the ordinance approved.
Yes, so the
by-
ballot question, the ballot question would come forward for first reading at the first meeting in February. So there's several steps that have to happen. This ordinance to call the special election, and then separate ordinances for any ballot items that you'd like to put on the ballot. And so this will be for final reading at the first meeting in February, and the ballot item would be on second reading, final reading for the second meeting in February.
Counselor Flores.
Just the cost. What's this going to cost us to include ourselves in the county election?
Probably the regular $100,000.
100,000?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
No, you have to do it on the consent agenda.
Oh, okay.
President Aliff, I move to receive and file the minutes of the Planning Zoning Commission.
No.
Okay, to approve this resolution set forth in the consent agenda, pass the ordinance of the consent agenda, setting the public hearing for February 10th, 2025, in order the ordinance to be published by title.
Thank you. Is there a second? Counselor Gomez, any other questions? Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, we now move to resolutions, item Q1.
Item Q1, a resolution authorizing payment from the council contingencies account in the 2025 general fund budget to the Pueblo Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $1,000 to sponsor a table at the annual Gala and Citizen of the Year presentation on Friday, January 31st, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the Pueblo Convention Center.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. President. Again, this is a consideration for a request for support of the Pueblo Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $1,000 to sponsor a table at the annual Gala and Citizen of the Year presentation this Friday, January 31st at 6 p.m. at the Convention Center. In the past, council has purchased tickets individually rather than sponsoring a table. This will be the first time sponsoring a table, and this was introduced by a member, Dennis Flores. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. Any questions? Let's call for the vote. I thought there was.
Second, I'll second it.
Motion.
Second. Now let's call for the vote. Have to vote again.
Dennis, you
Oh, We're all falling asleep. It passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, Q2.
A resolution authorizing payment from the council contingencies account in the 2025 general fund budget to Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center in the amount of $2,000 to sponsor a table at the Salute to Heroes event on Thursday, January 9th, 2025 at 4 p.m. at BCC.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Yes, sir. Again, this is a request for support of the Mount Carmel's Veteran Service Center in the amount of $2,000 to sponsor the Salute to Heroes event that happened Thursday, January 9th, 2025 at PCC. Council supported this event in 2024 for $1,000 and 2023 for $2,500. And this was brought forth by Councilor Regina Maestri. That concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah,
Councilor Gomez.
the fluctuation between 1,000, 2,500 back to 2,000, what's that about?
Just on the price of the table. They have different packages.
Oh, okay, so it's not just one consistent, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
They have different levels.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, we move to ordinances, final presentation, item R1.
Item R1, an ordinance approving an agreement in the amount of $100,000 to provide eviction prevention assistance between the county of Pueblo and the city of Pueblo, Colorado Municipal Corporation, authorizing the mayor to execute same, introduced January 13th, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Yes, President Aliff, council members. I also have with me this evening Melissa Cook, who's the interim housing administrator. And if there are any questions I'm not able to answer, hopefully she will be able to help me. This ordinance approves a subrecipient agreement between the city and Pueblo County to provide eviction prevention assistance in cooperation with the 10th Judicial District to assist individuals and families at risk of homelessness due to pending eviction. Previous action by City Council. Council adopted ordinance number 10674 on March 25th, 2024, allocating $100,000 to Pueblo County for the use of emergency eviction diversion with those funds. City Council has allocated funding for eviction prevention through the adoption of the 2020 annual action plan, allocating CDBG CV funds to mortgage and eviction prevention activities. The city of Pueblo received formula allocation of the CDBG CV funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through ordinance number 9951. City Council established project CDCV 40 mortgage and rental assistance. Pueblo County applied for funding to carry the eviction prevention activities during the 2024 notice of funding availability. The county's application was reviewed by the Citizens Advisory Committee and was ranked #1 overall. Citizens Advisory Committee presented its recommendation to City Council during work session on September 11th, 2023. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. I want to remind everybody, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak against this ordinance? Seeing none, the hearing's closed. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Latino, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Gomez, questions? Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, R2.
Item R2, an ordinance amending section 17-2-2, section 17-4-15, and section 17-4-51 of chapter 4 of title 17 of the Pueblo Municipal Code relating to natural medicine, introduced January 13th, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Yes, President Aliff and council members. With me this evening is Barrett Odom, Principal Planner with the Planning Department. And if there are any questions that I may struggle with answering, hopefully she will be able to help answer those questions. Attached for your consideration is a text amendment that will amend Chapter 4, Title 17 of the Pueblo Municipal Code to regulate natural medicine in the city of Pueblo. As you might recall, there was a previous ordinance that was adopted that set regulations and penalties that was under the city's code for those regulations. This ordinance pertains to the land use and zoning code adjustments to be able to deal with natural medicines. During the 2023 legislative session, the Colorado General Assembly passed Senate Bill 23290, Natural Medicine Regulation and Legalization, which Governor Polis signed into law in May of 2023. The legislation is the formal implementation of Proposition 122, which Colorado voters approved in the 2022 general election to legalize natural medicine for personal use for persons 21 years and older. The law does not permit any retail component of natural medicine. Natural medicine instead may be administered by licensed facilitators in a healing center. The legislation tasked the Department of Regulatory Agencies, DORA, and the Department of Revenue with regulating natural medicine businesses. DORA will oversee the training, regulating, and licensing of facilitators who provide and supervise natural medicine services. DORA will oversee licensing and healing centers and other businesses involved with natural medicines, namely licensing of healing centers and other businesses involved in natural medicines, namely cultivation facilities, product manufacturers, and testing facilities. DORA will begin accepting natural medicine license applications on December 31st, 2024. The Senate bill prohibits local jurisdictions from prohibiting natural medicine businesses through zoning restrictions, but the legislation does allow local jurisdictions to enforce reasonable regulations regarding time, manner, and place. The proposed text amendment would add definitions, performance regulations, and changes to the table of uses that altogether regulate where and how natural medicine businesses may operate in Pueblo. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak against this ordinance? Seeing none, the hearing's closed. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Latino, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Maestri. Questions? Counselor Martinez.
Barrett, what's the time for so we can regulate the time, manner, and place. What did we decide on time?
So after discussing with the Planning and Zoning Commission, they decided not to regulate time. So there are no provisions for time restrictions in the text amendment that we're proposing. But we are regulating location based on the advisement of the state. So 1,000 feet from any operational school that has in-person class.
Does that include childcare facilities as well?
No, a preschool, yes, but not a childcare facility. And that's something we can look into more closely, but it is specific to preschool, elementary, middle school, junior high, and high school.
Okay.
Okay.
It would be interesting to add childcare facilities into that mix.
Okay.
To help me understand P and Z, the conversation around not including time or not regulating time.
Well, when we discuss this, it's our understanding that with a natural medicine care facility, that anyone wishing to utilize those services, they go in through an intake process. I believe there's consultation prior to, and then they go in for their session. They're required to stay in that session for the time period of which they're feeling the effects of the natural medicine. So that's like an 8-hour time period. Yes, generally. So it's not like you're going to have a lot of traffic in and out. And we figure that there's going to be lots of different times that people are going to want to offer this because people work. So there may be evenings, there may be weekends. And we don't actually foresee quite a few of these coming in right away. And this is something that we can look at in the future and obviously amend if we need to.
And Scott, does this go before P and Z first? Or is,
Yes.
did they
yes.
pass it?
Yes.
Yes, they
Okay.
recommended approval.
Any other questions? I have a question. So the state recommendation is 1,000 feet from a school, or is it daycare, or is it just school? I know you said something, but
Yes, it was specific to schools, and that's what our ordinance has in there. So it's a school that holds in-person classes, and I can pull the ordinance.
so I guess my question is, that's a recommendation. It's not a regulation, right? They're recommending
Correct.
no more than 1,000. So there's no reason to keep you from making it a mile.
From making it a model?
A mile.
A mile. Well, the statute or the legislation actually states that we cannot pass any unreasonable restrictions. So if you chose to make it a mile, there may be some inquiry into that and folks may fight that. I'm not certain. But it's very clear that we're not supposed to have unreasonable restrictions and we cannot zone it out
Would it,
either.
would it be an unreasonable restriction if you required it to be in an industrial area instead of a residential or a business?
So only the grow facilities, the testing facilities, anything of a nature that produces any product is only allowed in industrial districts within the city under this proposed text amendment. The only facilities would be and I always have a problem.
The healing center.
Thank you. The healing centers would be allowed in other business office type of zone districts.
But why?
Because those are more of a treatment facility that would fit more so within a commercial or medical office type environment. And as Barrett explained, this is not something where people are going to be coming and going all day long. This is a facility where they have to go through a pre-review with the facilitator, and then they go through their session. They have to be essentially released by the facilitator before they can leave the facility.
So I guess I would ask the mayor, we talked about this previously, but we didn't get into zoning or anything else like that. And then, we haven't really talked as a council on what we thought about zoning and what we thought about distance and closeness to schools or daycare centers or whatever. Can they take, I think there's a lot of questions here that need to be asked. If they make chocolate candy or gummy bears or whatever out of this acid, can they take it outside of the healing center and sell it? They can only do it inside, the distribution.
Okay. And may I clarify on the childcare facility? Childcare facilities are included. I was incorrect. So it's childcare facilities, preschool, elementary. No, there is no retail component or medical sales component of this natural medicine. So the only place you can ingest it is within this facility. Now, folks can grow their own, and that's in their own home, and that's separate, and that's under state law, and we cannot regulate that at all. But as far as the commercial manufacturer of this, anything that's manufactured is given to a facilitator to be taken in the facility and supervised by the facilitator.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll call for the vote.
Use it.
Fails 5-2. Madam Clerk, we move to R3.
So just to clarify on that vote, now there are no regulations in place on that.
Correct.
Well, I would assume that you come back to council and we have an open meeting about,
You can, but January 1, 2025 was when these facilities could start going into place.
okay.
Do we-
Um,
Is there a licensing for them, the facilities?
Only through DORA, through the state.
the city has no authority
To like,
aside from these potential regulations.
I would also assume it would have to go through P and Z again, correct? Which is going to add more time. So what's the time frame before we see it again?
We can read, well, based on, I mean, what would you like us to consider amending? That's first of all, then we could take that back to.
I personally would like it on Monday's work session, where we have and shame on us and shame on me specifically that we get to second reading and I didn't pick it up out of first reading to ask for the work session. I think that was a mistake, but I'm not gonna, personally, I'm not gonna approve something that I don't agree with, and I don't know all the stuff that we need to know. I mean, if somebody on council wants to reconsider it, we can reconsider it. But that's up to council.
Well, I think we can work with the mayor's office and council to see what specific items that need to be relooked at with the proposed ordinance, and then we can schedule a work session to review them.
Can I?
President Aliff, could we potentially ask the council to reconsider the vote or table it as is until a further meeting so it doesn't have to go back to planning and zoning, and then we will get you
Well, here's what
the
we can do.
information next Monday?
We can reconsider the no vote. Okay? Entertain a motion to table it to the next regular agenda or to the next regular meeting, and then get the information that we need in between at the work session. That makes sense to me. I would ask our attorney, Mr. Gifford, do we need somebody who voted in the majority?
It has to be somebody who voted for the prevailing side to
So I-
reconsider.
I make a motion to reconsider.
But I don't know
But
that you
follow,
can,
I don't know if we can reconsider the vote to then table.
yes.
That's the part I'll need to just, I apologize, we don't encounter this very
Well,
often.
who's got the book?
I'm
He's
looking it
got-
up right now.
He's got the book.
Bear with us while we look at the Robert's Rules of Order.
Bob's rules.
We're still on Robert.
For those curious, it's in Appendix A, Rule 29.
I gave you that.
I read Bob's all the time.
Sure.
Barrett? Okay, so having looked at it, it does have to be a member of the prevailing side to make the motion to reconsider. It does not state, there is no prohibition against on the revote to table as I read it. So I believe that what you suggested as an option is viable.
So would the motion be to reconsider and table to the next regular agenda
No.
or just to reconsider?
Just to reconsider, then it's, when it's after that, under the reconsideration, then it would be a table.
I make a motion to reconsider item R2. We have a second from Counselor Gomez. So a yes vote brings it back to reconsider.
So the yes vote brings it back for the council to vote on again or
Okay.
table.
Let's call for the vote. The motion to reconsider passes 6-1.
And if I may, President Aliff, to the city clerk, I'm sure we're going to have a motion to lay on the table for a date certain. Could you explain to council that process and how we need to bring it back if it is laid on the table?
Yes, if we could just do a motion to postpone, I think that would be best. Yeah, so a motion to postpone to a date certain, which would be probably the February 10th meeting, I believe.
So I'll make a motion to postpone R2 to the February 10th regular meeting. Is there a second? We have a second by Counselor Boston. Any questions? Let's call for the vote. And it passes 6-1. Now, Madam Clerk, can we please go to R3?
Item R3, an ordinance approving a cooperation agreement between the city of Pueblo, Colorado Municipal Corporation, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, in the amount of $750,000, establishing project number PL 2501 and budgeting and appropriating funds in the amount of $750,000 relating to the EPA Brownfields Municipal Multipurpose Grant and authorizing the mayor to execute same. Introduced January 13th, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Yes, President Aliff, council members. This ordinance approves a cooperation agreement and establishes a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Brownfields Multipurpose Grant Project, PL 2501, and budgets and appropriate grant funds from the EPA grant award number 102100 in the amount of $750,000. The purpose of the project is to conduct environmental assessments, hazardous materials reports, planning studies, and cleanup planning for sites and corridors in the city of Pueblo. Specifically, the grant will conduct at least one cleanup of the El Centro de Quinto Sol Recreation Center. The grant will also allow for broad redevelopment planning related to contamination and environmental justice in Pueblo's low and moderate income designated neighborhoods. As you might remember, we had a $300,000 grant about 3 years ago that we used for phase 1 and phase 2 remediation and environmental cleanup plans that was used for multiple facilities and sites within Pueblo. This grant not only allows for us to continue to be doing that type of work, but also allows for at least one cleanup project where you can actually mitigate for the environmental impacts on specific sites and using these grant funds. That concludes my report. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak against this ordinance? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Counselor Flores, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Gomez, questions? Counselor Flores?
You know, it's ironic that this just came up. I was speaking to a family that went through the 1965 flood. And I was stunned. The one surviving member of the family indicated to me the mom, the dad, 2 sons, 1 daughter, and the surviving daughter is now going through cancer. But all of her parents and her siblings all died of cancer in the Lower East Side after the 1965 flood. And the story is that I had been thinking about calling Randy Evans to see if they could review the death certificates of people that lived in that area. As you'll recollect, there was at least 4 feet of silt, and it was a real mess in 1965. It would be really interesting to see with core samples, what's down into the ground there, because according to this surviving lady, there were lots of people around her neighborhood that died of cancer. And it's, but this money could be utilized for that. Is that right?
I would have to verify that for sure, but I think that it would be eligible, and we've done core samples under the previous grant we had before to look at levels of environmental contamination, and we can use these funds on private properties. The cleanup funds need to be on public property.
But if you could relay my story and see if they could go a step further and look, it would be so easy to look at our city directories that we used to have in the old days,
right,
and find out what those people died of.
Yeah. So each of the cleanup sites where before any work is initiated for doing any testing, we clear those through EPA, through their grant manager for this project. And so that would be something that would end up having to be verified, but I would think that that would be an eligible expense.
And the area can be identified easily,
right,
at that time before the levy was put up. Thank you.
Any other questions? Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, R4.
Item R4, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2025 staffing ordinance by converting 3 full-time vacant firefighter positions within the authorized staffing of the fire department, introduced January 13th, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of council, mayor. The conversion of the vacancies is the final piece of the department staffing realignment associated with the addition of Fire Station 11. The staffing changes will ultimately result in the enhancement of the Pueblo Fire Department's ability to deliver meaningful life safety services to the community. This will ensure a smooth transition with that station opening. The financial impact will be none because of the salary savings with the time lapse before the station opens, and that concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak against this ordinance? Seeing none, the hearing's closed. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Counselor Latino, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Gomez, questions? I assume this is the very last time.
This is it, Mark, and they're all accounted for on the budget.
Amen. Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, R5.
Item R5, an ordinance relating to and providing for an enhanced tuition reimbursement program for city employees, introduced January 13th, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Yes, Mr. President, members of council and Mayor Graham, the ordinance before you seeks to extend an existing program which provides tuition reimbursement to city employees. The program began in 2022 and was a 3-year program, so it just expired at the end of 2024. So this ordinance would extend it for another 3 years. The program allows for reimbursement up to $2,000 per employee per year for costs associated with continuing education. Must be job related, and again, it's on a reimbursement basis. And those courses must be of value to the city. Participating employees are also required to execute an agreement in advance of receiving any reimbursement. And it includes a repayment provision. So if they leave the city within a certain period of time, they have to pay back the city for those reimbursement costs. And I think that is basically all I needed to share, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that report. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak against this ordinance? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Counselor Boston, is there a second? Counselor Martinez, questions? Counselor Latino?
I'm having a real hard time with this. We're talking about cutting a tremendous amount of money out of the budget. And we're giving raises to some, we're not giving raises to some, and now we're asking for money. I don't know how we can possibly give money out when we're running a deficit in the budget.
So just so council is aware, this typically is paid out of existing department funds. It's not additional funding. It's departments generally use salary savings or something within their budget to cover these costs. So this is just extending the program to allow employees to sign an agreement and be able to participate in the program.
So you're
But we're
telling
not
me that-
asking for additional money.
Okay, so you're telling me the money's already there?
The
Is that what
money
you're
is
telling me?
already there.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
within
that's a-
department budgets.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Boston?
How often is this program taken advantage of so far in the past 3 years?
We had hoped it would be more than it has, but we have had some folks participate in it, more so than we had the previous years before we had this program. So for the last 3 years, we've spent about $18,293, and we had 13 employees from 6 different departments participate in the program.
Negligible.
So
Counselor Gomez?
In reference to the term enhanced, what do you mean by that?
So it's enhanced in the sense that all of the union contracts, so for our classified union bargaining agreement covered employees, they already have a tuition reimbursement provision within those collective bargaining agreements. The enhanced piece is that those are generally, and they're in the background paper, don't provide 100% of reimbursement. They provide, for instance, Pueblo Municipal Code, no more than 80%. For fire, it's no more than 75%. For police, it's 75%. And then for Page, it's 80%. So the difference here is that we're willing to pay 100%, but only up to that maximum amount of $2,000. And I think that's, when I'm looking at the costs over the years, which you had that included in your background paper, it doesn't look like many people reached that, especially not in the first 2 years. So that's why it's enhanced. The other piece is that if this is approved and they enter into the agreement and agree to participate in accordance with all of the rules, then we're saying that amount is guaranteed to be paid up to the 2,000. Prior to that, and in all of these provisions within the union contracts and in code, it all says that it's dependent on availability of funds. And so in the past, this was one of the first things that it's always cut. We just don't do this. We don't participate in this. We haven't offered the reimbursement. So this is just a commitment on the city's part to say, we think this is an important thing. We think we retain employees by having this type of a program. We're willing to invest up to $2,000. But again, the employee has to meet all of those conditions. They have to get a certain grade in the class, has to be job related. And again, if they leave, we're going to recover that money.
How many times have you had to recover that money?
None, because the participants didn't leave.
Okay, so from the low end of number of employees that could take advantage of it to the high end, is there a range? Is there a maximum number?
There isn't a maximum number. I guess you could say every city employee could participate in this. That will never happen. I can't, again, we've had 3 years of this program and only 13 people have taken advantage. So I don't see it being a huge financial risk to the city. Again, we've only spent $18,900 some dollars over 3 years. But again, I think it demonstrates the city's commitment as an employer that we're willing to enter into these agreements, and we're going to say we will pay up to that if you can meet all the requirements of the agreement get a good grade in the course. And again, has to be job related and of benefit to the city. So.
I'm not trying to be unkind here, but I'm just concerned, again, we have a responsibility to try to cut as much money as we can. And if you unravel all the processes that got us to this point right now, I don't care how you want to cut it, it's all generated from taxpayers. We can do all the camouflaging or the sleight of hand we want, but the bottom line is you're asking us to consider this. And again, I wish it was a better time, and I wish I could feel comfortable agreeing to all these programs, but I don't feel comfortable. I'm just being honest.
Counselor Flores.
I just want to say every professional organization tries to provide professional development to their people. And it just doesn't mean that they're not, you know, out there maybe taking classes and doing other things that don't relate to their job. But I think this is money well spent on providing professional development, especially to, you know, our key people. I mean, we probably derive much more dividends and people that are, you know, are motivated and ambitious. I think this is a win-win situation, and the dollars, and it appears like we've made a commitment on their union contracts. Now we're just arguing about, you know, actually we're talking about $6,000 a year when you divide that over 3 years. It seems like it's something that we should be encouraging rather than discouraging. Thank you.
Counselor Martinez.
Yeah, I have to say that this is a great program. I am looking forward to approving it. I think that it's a great retention tool. We know that replacing employees is really expensive. So when we're concerned about, you know, $6,000 per employee, we know that turnover is way more expensive than that. And this is a really great retention tool. It's also a really great tool to incentivize employees to go up the ladder. So that way, again, you're not having to pay for expenses like hiring, advertising, cost of interviewing, onboarding, all those things, because you're building them up from within. So it's literally way less expensive than having to hire new people at all. So I think that this is a no-brainer. And I hope that we pass it.
Counselor Maestri.
Well, you know, continuing education and employment is important and in every profession. I could see where some of the counselors are having questions about it because, you know, you go from a public employee has always known as a public servant, right? Their sacrifice. And then we have these public employees now that are unionized. They've got better benefits than most employers than anyone in town. And there's all these incentives. And it kind of takes that public service out of it in a sense of the definition. And that's just, I think it's just changing that mindset from my dad was a public employee at one time early in my childhood. And, you know, it wasn't the best paying job. And so they're way better paying jobs these days than they were from where the place they were derived from. So it was like being in the military, you know, the pay sucked. And so I think it's just the whole mentality of people getting over how it used to be to how it is now. But yeah, continuing education it is important. And if, you know, unfortunately, we've got some hard times right now, but if it helps, it helps. Thank you.
So I just want to be clear that we have negotiated union contracts that pay for 70 or 80% of tuition expenses.
We do accept that it's dependent on funding, available funding. So even though the contracts say that, if the city didn't have money to pay for that, we have that out, so to speak. So the difference here is that we're making a commitment that we're going to find up to $2,000 a year.
So, well, explain to me what so what is the union contract that says that they'll pay 80% of tuition? What does that dollar amount come to?
Well, it depends on what the
I
course
turn,
cost
I,
is.
I,
So the
I go
only
to
one-
school for $10,000. How much is the city gonna pay of that $10,000 per the union contract?
Well, it depends on the union contract. So for fire, 75%, but only up to 2,000. So for that group, this is not incredibly enhanced because it's already capped at 2,000. The difference is it pays 100% versus the 75. For those not in the union, it's 80%. There is no cap. So there is no maximum. It could be well beyond 2,000.
And that's with who?
That's for non-union. That's just in the code. So for unclassified or for classified like Class B managers, employees like that, that would cover them. For police, it's reimbursement of no more than 75% of tuition fees and books paid by for the employee, and there's no max on theirs. And then for Page, it's 80% for job related, 50% for not job related. And so again, some of these don't have a cap. I'd have to do the math and I don't have my calculator in front of me, but the difference here is that we're saying we are going to make up to 2,000 available no matter what. If you sign the contract, execute the agreement, understand what your responsibility is, that is going to be what the city is committing to. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Well, I guess my argument is this, we enter into union negotiations, the administration negotiates with the union comes back and says, this is what we want to do. And the administration says, okay, we'll do it, and then city council ratifies it. And it's frustrating when we enter into these union contracts and then we adjust them all the time. So we enhance them or add to them or whatever. So it just becomes discouraging that there's an 80% reimbursement on some, there's 70% on some, 75% on some. I don't understand where the $2,000 comes in.
that's the maximum.
On some.
No, well, on some that exist right now under this enhanced program, that's the max for every group. We would never pay more than 2,000,
No matter what.
no matter what. Again, if they execute the agreement and do all that.
So, any other questions, Counselor Latino?
So we're talking about an equal amount being distributed between the classified and the non-classified. Is that correct?
Well, yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
But not at the same levels, correct?
I'm sorry.
Between classified and unclassified, it's not the same amount of money,
It is the same amount, 2,000,
no matter what.
no matter what.
Okay.
No other questions? Let's call for the vote. It passes 6-1. Madam Clerk, we move to quasi judicial proceedings, item S1.
Item S1, an ordinance annexing unincorporated land commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing number 1, annexation to the city of Pueblo described as 79.8 acres of land located north of State Highway 78, southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, and east of the South Side landfill, introduced January 13th, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Yes, President Aliff, council members, and Mayor Graham. The petitioner Pueblo Recreation Investors LLC is requesting to annex the property containing 79.8 acres into the city of Pueblo. The area is commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing 1 annexation. Pueblo Recreation Resort filing 1 annexation is located north State Highway 78, southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, and east of the South Side landfill. Petitioners are requesting to annex the 79.8 acres into the city for a potential mixture of land uses that complies with future land use designations within the Pueblo Regional Comprehensive Plan adopted 2022 as amended. The property is currently identified within the suburban residential future land use categories in the 2022 comp plan. The applicant is proposing to initially zone the property as an A1 agricultural 1 holding zone district. That's an interim zone classification until the time of development. The A1 interim zoning following annexation is allowed under section 1713E of the Pueblo Municipal Code. According to the code, the annexation agreement may allow an A1 zone district for a specified period of time. No building or occupancy permit shall be approved by the city or issued by the Pueblo Regional Building Department for any building or structure within the area being annexed until after the property is zoned in a land use classification most nearly corresponding to the land use that they wish to undertake on the property. The property would have to be master planned, and the property would need to be subdivided according to Title 12, Chapter 4 of the Pueblo Municipal Code of Ordinances. Proposed annexation site is currently zoned A4 in Pueblo County Agricultural Zone District. Properties that are located north, south, and east of the proposed annexation area are currently undeveloped, and the property to the west is developed with the Southside landfill. Petitioner acknowledges and agrees that upon annexation, the property shall become subject to the charter, ordinances, resolutions, rules, and regulations of the city, but that the city shall have no obligation to furnish or extend municipal services, including but not limited to sanitary sewer services to the area proposed to be annexed. The annexation area impact reports have been filed with all taxing entities as required by Colorado Revised Statute. That concludes my report. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Is there an addition from planning and zoning or anything?
Yes, I'll add that to the report. The City of Pueblo Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the annexation at the December 11th, 2024 regular meeting. A motion to approve the proposed annexation was made by Commissioner Bailey and seconded by Commissioner Spinuzzi to recommend approval of the proposed annexation petition.
Are we to make that a part of the record?
We certainly can.
It's up to you. I'm just asking the question.
The full report of the Planning and Zoning Commission is part of the record of the hearing.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that report. This is a public hearing. Did you have something? No?
I was
I
just
seen
gonna
you hitting
make
that
a,
button.
I was just going to make a motion that the council find that the annexation complies with CRS 31-12-104 and 31-12-105. Based upon the testimony that was presented earlier today during the public hearing, and approve the annexation filing number 1 as part of the hearing.
Okay. Are we going to have a public hearing, Madam Clerk?
The public
That already
hearing we
occurred.
had earlier.
So we
Yes.
don't need to take testimony on this.
So this is the quasi judicial hearing. So we've had testimony earlier. If you want to open up for testimony, you can again, but you could take notice of the hearing that was earlier and the testimony that was presented at that time.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve? Counselor Gomez, is there a second? Counselor Flores, any questions?
I have one.
Counselor Flores.
I live in Ventana and I'm fine with this development. I really like it. But can you tell me what CDOT has reviewed on the roadway, the egress and all the other things that may be necessary? Can you add to what that looks like?
Yes. The proposed access is the extension of Lake Avenue, which would connect with State Highway 78. That access it meets the CDOT distance requirement for full movement intersections. It's more than a half mile from where the Bandera interchange, and there's also a full movement interchange at what is known as the Westmore subdivision in unincorporated Pueblo County. That's the closest full movement intersection. And the proposed location of Lake Avenue is more than a half-mile distance between them. So it meets the criteria for CDOT to allow for a full movement intersection. In addition, the annexation agreement that is being approved as part of this annexation requires the petitioners to secure all access permits from CDOT as a condition of any approval of any development and any building permits for the property.
There'll have to be an entrance on to the north section off of 78 there.
Correct.
And what street is that?
Oh, it's actually the looping of Lake Avenue
Oh, okay.
around the southwest side of the city, and then it would intersect with State Highway 78.
And is that going to provide a secondary entrance? This lake, I'm looking,
It
I'm
would be
thinking
the,
about Lake
it would be the
Avenue.
primary entrance to the area being annexed, although according to the fire code, as a certain amount of development occurs, that secondary access is required under the fire code once they reach a certain number of dwelling units.
This is just the beginning, so I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Let's call for the vote. Passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, S2.
Item S2, an ordinance annexing unincorporated land commonly known as Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing number 2, annexation to the city of Pueblo described as 219.76 acres of land located southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, and west of the Westmore subdivision of unincorporated Pueblo County. Introduced January 13, 2025 by Councilor Brett Boston.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a staff report.
Petitioner Pueblo Recreation Investors LLC is requesting to annex property containing 219.76 acres into the city of Pueblo, commonly known as the Pueblo Recreation Resort, filing number 2 annexation. This area is located southwest of Ventana subdivision, filing number 1, and west of the Westmore subdivision in unincorporated Pueblo County. The petitioners are requesting to annex this area into the city for a mixture of land uses, including a recreational RV resort, commercial development, and residential development that complies with the future land use designations within the Pueblo Regional Comprehensive Plan adopted in 2022. The property is currently identified within 3 separate future land use categories in the Regional Comprehensive Plan. Those categories include suburban residential, rural ranch, and special development area. Following approval of the annexation, the petitioner will file an application for a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment, changing the future land use in the area south of State Highway 78 to a commercial mixed use designation. Under the provisions of the annexation agreement, the petitioner will apply to rezone the property south of State Highway 78 containing 175 acres into an R6 multi-residential and commercial district. No building or occupancy permit shall be approved by the city or issued by the Pueblo Regional Building Department for any building or structure within the 219.76 acres until after the property is zoned in the land use classification that corresponds with the future, with the city's comprehensive plan. And the property must also be subdivided in accordance with Chapter 12, Title 12, Chapter 4 of the Pueblo Municipal Code. The proposed annexation site is currently zoned Pueblo County A4 Agricultural Zone District, and the property located north, south, east, and west of the proposed annexation are currently undeveloped. The petitioner acknowledges and agrees that upon annexation, the property shall become subject to the charter, ordinances, resolutions, rules, and regulations of the city, but that the city shall have no obligation to furnish or extend municipal services, including but not limited to sanitary sewer services to the area proposed to be annexed. Under stakeholder process, the annexation impact reports have been filed with the taxing entities as required by Pueblo revised statutes. The planning case was held and reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their December 11th, 2024 regular meeting. And we would like to have the staff report, and all items from the Planning and Zoning Commission entered into the record of this hearing.
So ordered. Thank you for that report, Mr. Hobson. Ms. Sykes?
So we would move council to find that the annexation as presented complies with CRS 31-12-104 and 31-12-105 based upon the testimony presented at the public hearing earlier tonight, and approve the annexation filing number 2.
Thank you, Ms. Sykes. Is there a motion to approve? Counselor Gomez, is there a second? Who said second? Counselor Flores. Any questions? Let's call for the vote. It passes 7-0. Counselor Boston,
This is the end, right?
this is the end.
I was just gonna say one
Your
thing.
innocence.
ELGLES, go Eagles.
Oh, gee.
I'd like to remind everybody, like I do at the end of every regular meeting, if you plan on getting a cat or a dog, please adopt, and adopt from our local shelter or one of our great rescues, which is Cooper's Companions, Paws for Life, and make sure after you adopt your fine dog that or cat that you put one of those trackers in them, get them spayed and neutered. And they're chips is what I'm told, and then you can find them if they're lost. With that being said, we are adjourned. Okay, that's cheaper.